LTC Heroes live by Experience Care. Today, I'm at LeadingAge, Georgia. I'm your host, Peter Murphy Lewis. I am excited to talk with Julie Parker. She's the Chief Operating Officer at Canterbury Court, and I'm excited to talk to you about why you come to LeadingAge and what you learn here. Let's start off with that. Welcome to the program.
LeadingAge is such a culmination of people that just love elders. And that's why we're here. And whether you are a business partner or whether you're a provider, it's just a wonderful, warm network of people working together for the same cause. And this year is extra special because it's our coming out party, really. Because we had a conference in September of last year. We all had on masks. You know, the year before we were virtual, and it's just not the same because this is who we are. We love people. And when we can't be around people or have a real conversation, it just seems empty. So it's exciting this year.
Well, I'm excited to get into your story and why you're passionate about this. And I need to warn you, the first person I talked to this morning, Liz, on your team, and I said, how did you get roped into this? And I said, Julie signed me up. I said, oh, no. She goes, I would do anything for her. So that is your introduction to LTC Heroes, Julie. Tell me your introduction to long-term care.
I started in long-term care actually, now that I think about it, in college. I was a housekeeper. I was a part-time housekeeper. When I graduated from college in a degree in dietetics and things of that nature, I was still working in this retirement community as a housekeeper. So that was my first initial impact, and didn't get ingratiated much into the community. And then I started working in a hospital, but as a food service director. So my first experience in life has been in food. And I thought, well, that's all I know how to do. So my first job as a director was I was sent to a kosher community in Toledo. Well, I am not Jewish and I knew nothing about kosher, but it was just the people. I had a man that said, all I want is a cheese sandwich. And he got his cheese sandwich. So whatever the level of humanity is, you just meet it or exceed it.
Tell me at what point you realize this is no longer just a first job or a second job. And you said, there's something special. I'm here for life. I'm a lifer.
I am definitely a lifer. As an adult who lost their grandparents when I was in my early 20s, I really had no idea what seniors were capable of doing. And so after I left the Toledo Jewish home, I went to a nursing home in Indianapolis. Again, I was still director of dining. And then I ended up at Canterbury Court in 1993. So yes, I've been there almost 30 years in different capacities, but it's just the relationships. It's just the people you meet that sow into your life, and it's reciprocal. It's not I'm serving you and I are serving one another, and you're hooked.
That I love it when humans and relationships come up early in a conversation, because that's what drives me about this industry. Do you have a story of a resident? Let's go back to 1994, 95, 96. Some resident who had an impact on you and either changed who you are as a mom or as a neighbor or as a religious person, someone who marked you for life.
So again, being in dining, we got the privilege every day of seeing residents more than anyone. So we really got attached to people very quickly. And there was a lady by the name of Sybil, and I didn't understand what she meant by it, but she says, you got it, I know it, and you know it. I said, well, what are you talking about? But she saw how I light up around listening and interacting, because food is a ministry as well, I believe. If you can
Amen.
satisfy somebody with getting them something to eat, you're in. But it's truly a ministry globally, I feel like, in senior living, because it's a connection.
One of the things when I first started talking with Jenny and Deke about coming to LeadingAge, Georgia, I said, What do you all want to talk about? And one of the things that came up, as you know, several times is we need to talk about the perception of this industry. Those of us that are in the inside, those of us that are here, know that this place is special. I don't care if you can make $2 more at a fast food place down the block. Something about what you get from this industry is unique. Tell me what's unique about Canterbury.
Canterbury is a very vibrant community, regardless of what level of care you are. And there is this hesitancy, as it's a normal hesitancy, that if I move to skilled nursing, my life is over. They'll say I'm one step away from, the mortuary. And that's not the case. One of my patent sayings is there's life on the pavilion, and our pavilion is our skilled nursing. And when people come, whether they come to do a temporary stay or whether they're there for the remaining years, they're engaged. There's a magic bullet: food, hydration, medication, and engagement. This brings the best out of people, and we see it time after time after time. And it's addictive, and it gives people that work on that skilled floor a feeling of purpose. I can walk away knowing I had an impact. And it's very personal, it's very intimate, and knowing that you're a CNA is just beyond. We need more men. We need more men.
My next question is close to my experience for my clinicals as a CNA. Robert was just such an amazing person to shadow on day one, and he said to me, within the first 5 minutes, it was 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning, and he was running around, and he looked at me, snapped at me, he goes, "Peter, people always quit on day one. This is not a hard job if you care about people. Now get on with it." Started running. I'm attracted to people like Robert, who have more get up than me, more energy than me. I'm going to ask you a twofold question, Julie. What's the type of the resident you're drawn to? As you know, Liz said you said that she was interested to the feisty ones. Who are you drawn to? And then what's the type of frontline caregiver that you're drawn to that you like to shadow and learn from?
We have so many amazing caregivers that have been with us for 20 years. And you look, and if you've ever done it yourself, and I've done it caring for my mother, it's a little different when you're caring for your mother, even if it's 2 or 3 days. It's just a heart and just this, again, a ministry. It's such a ministry for those caregivers that they'll go out of their way. They'll go and buy little jewelry items and things for the hair, and they take such pride in looking at what they did to make that resident feel good, because we all want to look pretty. We all want to look well dressed and cared for. So I'm drawn to that kind of person. But I love the residents that do speak their mind, because some are very hesitant. Some are hesitant to say there's a problem. And, we've got a heart for this. We want to know, if you're having a problem, how can we help and fix it? So don't be hesitant. So yeah, I like them all, but I just really appreciate the ones that tell it like it is, because that's how we can grow and how we can get better.
I'm sure you have. I'm going to ask you to shout out and share one or two frontline caregivers. If this industry needs more of those types of spirits, and I know you can't list off your entire organization because we have to ask. We got to go head on some of the more questions. But what's an unsung hero from Canterbury that you're like, oh, this person during COVID, they could have easily retired early, or this person picks up the trash and they could make $4 more at Walmart, and they're in senior living they're a lifer like me. Anyone stand out for you?
First of all, I'd like to recognize Wanda Hunter. She's one of our second shift CNAs that's been at Canterbury for probably close to 20 years. She and her sister both worked there, and her sister's retired. The other one would be Selma Hudson and Johnette Dorsey. There are activities, folks, but as you know, you don't wear one hat. You wear several, and Selma and Johnette have a very special gifting when it comes to people with cognitive challenges, and they will do anything and everything, and they're vital to our organization.
I think that I'm probably going to ask you to speak about yourself. And yesterday during the keynote, Kathy says that we need to celebrate our wins. And you obviously feel comfortable talking about your team. You feel comfortable talking about Liz and the frontline caregivers. What's something that you've done well in the last 5 years that may not everyone know, that but you might tell your closest girlfriend or your first cousin? You're like, man, I hired this person, or the night that I worked this extra 4 hours, it changed my life because I saw something. Share something that if I were a 23-year-old in your community and I hear your leadership, I want to follow Julie.
It's a journey. This life on earth is a journey, and our professional career is a journey. I mean, like I said, I started in dining. Then somebody saw something in me, which is what I try to do with people like that I encounter. That, oh wow, you've got this gift, let's cultivate it. So somebody saw in me, oh, you should be an administrator, you're organized, you like systems. I got that opportunity. Then got the opportunity to go back late in life, I would say when I was 55, to get my nursing home administrator's license. So that person that saw that in me and gave me that opportunity, I'm beholden to. He did the same thing for Liz. He did the same thing for our one of our nurses who went back even later in life to get her nurse practitioner's license. So that's kind of my quest now, is what can I see in other people and how can I encourage them by telling my story? Because as we get older, that's what we do. We reinvent ourselves, because that's what our residents have taught us. They've taught me that just because my husband just died doesn't mean I'm gonna stop living. I'm gonna find a new avenue to go down, and that's what I want to help instill in others.
Julie, one of the items that I like so much about interviewing leaders like yourself in long-term care is, generally speaking, leaders are really self-aware in this industry. It's human to human, and you just learn. You're like a sponge. You're always picking up on emotional intelligence. What are some lessons that you learned about yourself over these last 2 years of the pandemic that you're like, I didn't know I could do this? Yesterday we talked about the rubber band. I didn't know I could stretch that way. Or I didn't know that I could improve this language of love. I'm about service and affection, and I learned to live in the present. I turned off notifications. What did you learn about yourself?
Well, I learned how to say no, which was not a good thing. And I think that gave me the most distress, because people were stressed and they wanted to see their loved one, but we're in lockdown. So I spent a lot of time trying to talk to people and saying no. And it made me feel more uncomfortable than I thought it would. So we're a culture of yes, not a culture of no. So I'm thankful that we now can open back up the doors and find a way so that we're no longer isolating people. We're no longer locking people up. We're providing a safe environment because we've learned to live with COVID.
Before we move on, and I'm going to ask you about kind of what you would say to a young 22-year-old or a 27-year-old, maybe a single mom who, has been working in the service industry, and that she would be a great CNA, and she asked for some advice. What would you tell her about that? I want to make a brief pause, and I want to thank the sponsors. As you know, Julie, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Deep Cato of AG Roads, and for LeadingAge Georgia 2022, an amazing mission-driven organization. I've already spoken to so many people. As you know, I've already cried with one of your teammates this morning, so this is a special place. Thank you, Deke, AG Roads, and for LeadingAge for bringing LTC Heroes here, and thank you, Experience Care, for these live programs. What would you say to let's put a name on this person? Let's say your niece, Stephanie. She's 23 years old. She finished her associate's degree. She worked at a law firm. She didn't like that much. She's got some passion. She says, you know what, Aunt, I'm thinking about getting into long-term care. What would you tell her about it beyond what's physical, the tangibles that's special about this place?
I think there's so many avenues and so many opportunities, again, because we learn from our residents that if you give this a try, you might be a lifer or you may not. I would say it doesn't have to be forever unless you want it to be, but there's so much good that you can provide. It's such a vibrant, life-giving job. And so to share yourself with a person that needs your help, knowing that as we get older, we don't like to lose control, but having that trusted partner and providing that service that, you might look on the outside and think it's not significant. It's so significant. It's so intimate. It's so personal. And it's so much needed in our industry. And it's just a wonderful avenue to pursue, even on the ground level. Our residents at Canterbury contribute money to a scholarship program. We've had numerous people either become CNAs, become LPNs, or become nurses because of the generosity of our residents. So there you get opportunities to try things, and it's just so life-giving.
I want to move into some quotes, some thought-provoking quotes. My favorite one, and I think 90% of the interviews that I do, I always ask them this question, and it's from Ray Lewis. And essentially, I'm going to paraphrase what he says, but he says, Monday through Fridays is why he gets paid, but on Sundays he plays for free. What is your Sunday, Julie, that you would do for free in long-term care? And you're like, I can't believe God gave me the gift to receive money for this. I would pay for it like I pay to get into Disney World.
What would I do for free? What would I do for free? Wow, I've done a lot of things for free, and it's not because you're asked, it's because you want to. Staffing is a challenge, as you know. I've come in on Sundays. I've actually missed my own church service, which is near and dear to my heart, just to provide. I mean, it's you feel so responsible for these lives, and knowing that maybe there's nobody there to do it, it tugs on your heartstrings. So I've gone on plenty of times for quote unquote free, just because of the actual love I have for my community. I wouldn't have been there for 29 years if I didn't love it. And I plan on retiring from there, I hope, God willing.
I think that, I know you didn't ask me, but I can tell that you are a person who cares about others because you've already shared that through your eyes with me. I think when I feed someone with severe dementia, I feel like I'm paying back what caregivers gave to my grandparents who passed away. And I can't believe I get paid for that 30 minutes of feeding someone and taking care of them and hugging them and passing that love language of touch over to them. I'm definitely going to take this quote out of context, and it's from Groucho Marx, and he says, "No man goes before his time unless the boss leaves early." And I don't know if he's talking about a boss who leaves work early or if he's talking about death. I'm interested in your legacy. When you go, what do you want Canterbury to remember you for, the residents, your staff?
Wow. Like I say, I probably have another 7 years, Peter, and I want them to think that she cared to the point where she reinvented herself so she could still be relevant. I mean, I think we all want to be relevant, but I just want people to know that I will do whatever it takes to be successful, to have a successful team. And it's all about the collective. It's not about one person. It's about the team.
Moving into some rapid fire questions, Julie, and this is one of my favorites because I have a lot of failures. Do you have a favorite failure in your life that you've got up again, you're stronger, you're wiser, and you're like, man, I was embarrassed back then, but today I can say that I'm a better woman?
I'm a firm believer that I would rather be the one letting people know my failures before they have to call them a failure. But I had more disappointments in my youth, making not great decisions. But like they say, it's not where you start, it's where you end. So and just never giving up. I mean, I remember in high school being disappointed I didn't make a certain choral team or whatever, but I reinvented myself, and it's a self-motivating factor that I might be a little down, but I'm not out. And so you just keep going. But I can't think of anything terrifying or horrifying other than there was one state survey that came through Canterbury, and we have a very long standing tradition of no citations. and we got a citation in the kitchen under my helm, and I was devastated. I went home and I cried, and I felt like I let down the team. But you know what? It's just life.
Yeah.
Life is not always perfect or successful. You just keep going.
Yeah, and you're back.
That's right.
If and this is a question that I'm kind of running with off the cuff. If I ask you to give me in a sentence or two your bio, but I say that you can't mention anything about long-term care, nothing professionally, who are you outside of this industry, Julie?
I am a person that has faith in God. Whoa. I have faith in human beings, that at the core, we're good people. And somebody once told me, she says, you give people the benefit of the doubt. And I said, of course I do. But I don't let people run all over me, but I just believe in the core that people are good. And I have to believe that. And I love people. And I just believe I want to believe the best until proven otherwise.
Going back to the idea of changing the perception, what people have of long-term care, I work with a lot of younger generations, millennials and Gen Zs. And one of the things that I love about them is that values and mission drive them. If there's a 15-year-old out there or a 22-year-old out there who hears what you just said and believing in the good, those are people who want to work at Canterbury under your leadership. I'm glad you shared that. Wrapping up for a question, it's one of my favorites, and you might have been able to predict that I was going to ask you. If you could have access to a huge, gigantic billboard in a big city, to millions of people would see it every single day when they drive by it, what would it say and why?
Love the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean unto your own understanding, and just choose God. He won't fail. He never fails.
Julie, we have about a full day left of LeadingAge. To sign off, tell me what it is that it invigorates you about this organization, the people, the conversations, and those of who might not be coming to LeadingAge this year, why should they come back next year?
To be able to come back and see people I've known for the last 15, 20 years and just feel at home. It's comfortable here. You see people, your old friends, you make new friends, and life is all about connections, and that's what LeadingAge is.
Thank you, Julie, for joining LTC Heroes. Look forward to connecting with you. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Peter.